All right, so today we're going to talk about circles again. Yesterday we did circumference and arc length. Today we're going to go into areas. So we want to start trying areas of the entire circle, and we want the area of what we call sectors. And that's going to be something we're going to discuss here as we go through. But circles and sectors are going to be what we focus on today, a lot like we did circumference and arc length yesterday. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about area of a circle, which is something you should know. You've learned this in a couple of other math classes prior to this geometry class, and so this should be a familiar formula. But in this case, for area of a circle, there's the one single formula that requires the use of the radius. And so we have to have that radius in order to plug into our formula, and so we have to be really careful we don't get into too big of a hurry and actually plug in the wrong number. But as far as calculating areas go, it's just a matter of plugging into the formula and getting your answer. So if I'm looking at this blue circle first here, my formula calls for 10 or pi times the radius, in this case, which is 10 squared. Now, like circumference, we might want the exact area. So I might take 10 squared, which is 100, and then times pi. And then my units would be miles squared when I calculate area. This would be a perfectly acceptable answer for the area. Or a lot of you would rather plug into your calculator and get a decimal, which is perfectly fine. And so if I plug 100 pi into my calculator, I get 314.2 miles squared. And so either way, I have my area for my circle by using that pi r squared. Same thing with the yellow circle. So for the yellow circle here, I take pi times, now here I gotta be careful, radius. They gave me the diameter of 14. I need to convert that to radius by cutting it in half, so my radius would be 7 squared. And then if I want the exact answer, 7 squared is 49 times pi millimeters squared. Or I can just take pi times 7 squared in my calculator, and if I do 49 times pi, I get 153.9 millimeters squared. So as far as area is concerned, it's just a matter of finding the radius, plugging it in, getting an answer. With sectors, so the first thing was with a sector, it has to be bounded, so it's 2 radii. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to have a central angle, and that creates kind of like a slice of our pie. So if we think about this circle as like a pizza or a pie, the slice of that pizza or the slice of that pie is what we consider to be a sector. And so if we look at the formula over here, what we notice is this is very similar to our arc length formula. In fact, it starts off exactly the same. I need my arc measure divided by 360, but it finishes with area. So then times the area of the circle. So it's basically just 2 pieces to the formula that I just need to figure out which numbers I need and plug them in. So for this particular example, as far as area goes, my arc measure is the same as my central angle measure, which is 70 degrees. And so if I plug that in, I go 70 over 360 times pi times my radius 12 squared. And so then if I plug that into my calculator, so 70 divided by 360 times pi, and then times 12 squared, I end up getting an overall area of about 87.96 or 88 units squared. And so as far as rounding is concerned, I don't really care if you go to 1 or 2 decimal places as long as you have the right numbers plugged in and the right value at the end of the problem. And that's it. It's just know the arc measure, know the radius, plug them in and solve. So same thing here. If we're looking at the area of sector ACB, so that's ACB, let me use a different color here. So A to C to B, there's the slice I want. So all I do is plug into my formula. So if I want the area, my arc measure is my angle measure, so 81 divided by 360 times pi. Now when I go to radius here, I gotta be careful. The 30 is my diameter, I need to cut it in half first, so 15 for my radius squared. And then again, we just plug that in the calculator. So 81 divided by 360 times pi, and then times 15 squared. And so when we plug all that in, we get 159.0 units squared. And so there's my area. And that's it. It's just using the formula, plug in the numbers, find your value. Now, one of the things that's going to start happening in this chapter as far as calculating areas and eventually surface area and volume is they might throw a couple of different types of shapes together. And so remembering how to calculate formula or calculate areas for other shapes is going to be important. So like for triangles, if I want the area of a triangle, I take 1/2 the base times the height. And so if I'm looking at this triangle here, it's a right triangle. The base and the height, I'm looking for that perpendicular line. So I'm looking for that right angle. And so my base and height in this case would be 7 and 7. Well, so if I want to calculate the area of my triangle, I'm going to take 1/2 times 7 times 7. And so if I plug that in my calculator, that's basically 49 times 0.5, or 1/2 of 49. And so for my triangle, I get 24.5 meters squared. Now that's this part of my picture. What I also need though, is I need to find the area of this semicircle right here. So first, recognizing that for my circle, it's 1/2 of a circle, that means I'm going to take 1/2 of my pi times radius squared. So I need 1/2 of an actual circle. And so if I look closely here as I go to plug in, I've got my 1/2 times pi. Now my radius, we said that the diameter here was 7 meters. And so if I want to cut that in half, it's going to be 3.5. And so I have 3.5 squared. And then I can plug this into my calculator. And so I take 1/2 times pi times 3.5 squared. And I get a total area of about 19.2. And that would be meters squared. And so my total area would be my 19.2 plus my 24.5, and we get a total area of 43.7 meters squared. So if they put a couple of pieces together, so a couple different shapes, calculate the area of each one, and then just add everything up at the end. And so with that, you should be able to complete today's worksheet. So you can either ask questions in class if you have any with that, or access the answer key when it becomes available and get any of your questions answered that way as well.